Hey everyone, welcome to the Active Towns channel. My name is John Simmerman, and this is my final video that I'm recording from my 2024 Active Towns European Tour. I am in Copenhagen, and I am going to be riding to the airport. So I've got my luggage here, you can see on my little Brompton, and we're going to make our way out to the airport whenever possible. I love to do this. I love to ride to and from airports whenever I can, just to prove that it can be done, and to highlight the fact that many cities have developed all ages and abilities, safe infrastructure out to airports, which really helps out the employees primarily, but also for those crazy enough to travel by bike. So let's turn the camera around and have some fun. So obviously we are not in what one would consider what would be typical Copenhagen. This is out in the Burbs. You can see the hotel there in the distance and some other very typical infrastructure that you'd expect to see in any North American or any other car-centric development sort of context. But here is what's special is, you get past that bad intersection, and even though we're along a strode here, we're in a nice separated tree and parking protected bike lane. So again, I hope this is inspiration for cities around the globe that you can transform some of your stroads by following these simple tenets of creating separated and protected infrastructure for people who need to get around by a means other than driving a single occupancy vehicle. Check this out. Well, this isn't super fun. So you can see that we transitioned away from protected infrastructure to sharing space on this residential access street, and I even call it more of a collector, whatever name you want to ascribe to it, but it is essentially a shared street environment. This is not ideal, especially not at 40 kilometers per hour. But so far, it's been okay. So far it's been relatively comfortable. I suspect that I could snoop out an alternate route, but here we are. I don't think we're going to be on this particular type of street for very long, so we shall see. Okay, and I suspected we didn't have to stay on this shared street for too terribly long. Now we're on a major street which will feature some cycling facilities. Let's check out and see how safe these are. How inviting. Well, first glance, pretty nice. Parking protected again, physically separated. You'll notice the gradations of the different curb heights, surface heights were higher than the motor vehicle travel lanes and slightly lower than the pedestrian realm, and very, very comfortable up here. I do note too that it looks as if this street may have gone through a downsizing. Maybe, maybe not. The trees are pretty old, so this might have been a historical context in terms of one lane in each direction. But again, this is the type of infrastructure in kind of a more suburban context. Here's a gas station we're passing by that I think other cities around the globe can learn from and and implement. One of the lessons of this, and from this experience, I hope, is that if you do go out exploring in some of these bicycle-friendly cities, like a Copenhagen, or an Utrecht, or Amsterdam, or you fill in the blank, even Montreal in North America, be sure to get to the fringes. Be sure to get into a more suburban context and see how the walking and biking infrastructure is built out there, and see exactly how they're able to find that balance so that you can encourage more people to choose walking and biking, using transit out in the far reaches of these cities. It doesn't do you any good just to go into the parts of the city that are well known and almost over profiled, because it's almost like a Disneyland. However, if you get out into this sort of context, you can more easily see the applicability to car-centric cities around the world. And in case you're wondering, the trip that I'm taking today to the airport, I think it was estimated at about 15 minutes to ride out to the airport. We don't really have very much further, about 5 minutes or so to the edges of the airport. And the irony kind of is that had I needed to go to the central station for a train, it would have actually been a little closer to 20 minutes for me to get there. So yeah, I was staying in a suburban context at an Airbnb out towards the airport. So yeah, that was pretty convenient. Okay, got some older adults heading that direction. We are at our turn, making our way to the airport. Past experience, I know that we have a nice cycle path that leads us in that direction. And if I recall, I think I can just pretty much follow the wayfinding signs along the pathway to the actual airport. So let's check it out and see if I can do that. And just as you can imagine, the environment looks very airport-esque in terms of the things that you see here. You see some rental car return, parking garages here, some more up ahead, and some Avis budget rent-a-car. I can't tell you how empowering and how economically advantageous it is that I am able to do this. And I get that I'm coming at this from a point of privilege at some point, but this bike, my Brompton, has paid for itself many, many times over, just in the fees that it has saved me in terms of not needing to rent a bike, not needing to rent a car, being able to just ride your bike to and from an airport. I will have a video that sort of outlines how I really do this logistically, including, an overview of my bags. Here's the front bag that the bike actually travels in and gets checked in. A lot of my heavier camera equipment right now is in my bag on the back rack. I'll show you what that looks like. There. I hope that showed up. So, yeah. All right, let's pay attention to where I'm going here. All right, folks, I'm not sure if this is my terminal or not, but we shall figure this all out. But we're definitely getting close. You see lots and lots of bike parking here. There's Terminal 2. Yay. I do need to figure out which terminal I'm in. But you know what we're gonna do? We're just gonna wrap it up here and let me figure out exactly which terminal I'm in, and leave it at that, because it could be right there. It could be Terminal 2 for all I know. So again, folks, hey, thank you so much for joining me on these fun journeys during this Active Towns 2024 European tour. I hope you enjoyed this ride to the airport here in Copenhagen. And until next time, this is John signing off by wishing you much activity, health, and happiness. Cheers. right, here we go. Terminal 3 is where I need to be.